Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing The Haunting of Bly Manor. It's an American supernatural horror drama web television series created by Mike Flanagan on Netflix. It's the follow up to Mike Flanagan's Haunting of Hill House. It's kind of doing the same thing that Ryan Murphy likes to do with American Horror Story, where they take the same creators, basically the same directors, and most of the same writers, and the same cast. Most of the same cast, and they put it in a new story that is not in any way really connected at all. So, this specific story is the follow up of The Haunting of Hill House that aired on Netflix as well. I believe it was just last year. Um, so this is loosely based on the 1898 horror novella The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. It's the follow up of The Haunting of Hill House, like I said, the second entry in what I guess is going to be called the Haunting Anthology series. Many of the creative team, is coming from the previous Haunting of Hill House and just shifting right on over to this one. So, with that in mind, I generally enjoyed Hill House without going into in depth in it. You can go back on the SoundCloud library to figure out exactly what we were thinking about it and our full on opinions of it. But overall, I enjoyed Haunting of Hill House, and I really enjoyed Mike Flanagan's take on it. Now, Mike Flanagan has quite an interesting background. Like I said right here, it's he's an American filmmaker, best known for let me see, Absentia. Let me see. Oh, I just got to click on me. He has a lot of stuff. Let's just see. Um, He's best known for Absentia 2011, Oculus 2013, Hush Before I Wake, Ouija Origin of Evil, all 2016. That dude has been fucking pumping out some stuff. Gerald's Game 2017, Doctor Sleep 2019. The dude freaking works hard. And let me tell you, the majority of the stuff, like I said, all of it, I really enjoy the majority of the stuff that this guy is putting out, especially Doctor Sleep was one of the most recent um, pieces of media that I remember watching that he directed, and I was just very blown away by Doctor Sleep. So I was naturally looking forward to this specific, not even just this specific follow up to the Hill House, um, but pretty much anything with Mike Flanagan's name on it. So naturally, I want to see what's going on with the Haunting of Bly. It's called Bly Manor, but I keep calling it Blythe. It's the Blythe Manor, and sorry to all the Blythe out there, but sorry. It's just the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, oh, the Haunting of Blythe Manor. It's like instantly I'm not scared just by the name. Sorry, this the name Blythe is not inherently that scary to me. So sorry about that to all the Blythes, like I said. Um, Let me see. Get this thing back. Um, so the synopsis is of this specific 9 episode story tells the story of young governess hired by a man to look after his niece and nephew at the family country house after they fall into his care. Arriving at Blythe Estate, she begins to see apparitions that proceed to haunt the premises. So basically, it's another haunted house story. I mean, if you want to just boil it down to that. Now, what made Hill House really tick? And let's just say it was the direction, the writing, it was the overall production and value of believing this family was being just haunted in while they're living in this house. Now, I absolutely had my gripes in certain areas of Hill House. Like, it was nowhere near perfect in my opinion, but it was enjoyable. It was a haunting, enjoyable ride that had some uh, emotional heart to it that I was not expecting. And that's the thing about horror series, especially done by Mike Flanagan. I feel like he doesn't go just for the horror, but he goes for such a raw, visceral, emotional element in his stories that feel that bring them to the forefront. It makes his horror that much better than the majority of people that I believe I see horror films in. Like, a lot of horror films are just horror for horror's sake, and they'll just have like a small segue of, oh yeah, the horror film was an analogy for, being healthy or abuse or domestic violence or something like that. It's like, yes, normally that's it's like a big metaphor kind of thing. I feel like Mike Flanagan kind of goes the extra mile and gives a little bit more heart to his story. Now, what I am seeing is, I believe Mike Flanagan directed all of Hill House. Did he completely direct all episodes? Let me go back and check real quick. Flanagan directed. Yeah, this dude, and wrote a little. There was a couple people that wrote on the other episodes with Mike Flanagan, but he directed every episode. So, knowing that, is this still going to hit as hard as his other stuff? In my personal opinion, I do not think this first episode is a great representation of what the series is going to be. Now, I've seen up to a few episodes, but I'm only going to cover the first one so that we're not kind of jumping all back and forth and everything. This is mostly just first impressions, first takes, first hot takes on what we actually think of The Haunting of Bly Manor. Of course, I have, of course, as it should be as usual. It is not, of course, it's as usual. I have not read what this is based on, but it says this is loosely based on it, so I'm not going to go too in depth whether it is based on it or not. Um, I'm just going to have my opinions on the strict technicals of it. Do we like the acting? Do we like the story? Do we like the hook? Does it is it interesting enough for us to come back for more? Now, I've already said it that I've already watched a few episodes into it, so it obviously has a hook. I think the hook is strictly having the haunted house, having these weird, these twins that this nanny is having to look over in this strange place with strange things happening. I totally get that. I get the appeal of why that's interesting. Um, I will uh, let everyone know that Mike Flanagan does not direct and write all of these episodes. It looks like James Flanagan. I wonder if that's the brother of Mike. I wonder if that's. I feel some nepotism. My nepotism radar is going off. So, before, I don't want to go too into the bees and the birds and the bees of this specific season yet. I want to just focus on the first one, but overall, um, it's a slow burn. It's a 45-minute to 60-minute, 60 plus minute episodes. These are chunky episodes. Now, the thing that I forget about Netflix is that sometimes they don't like to edit, or they don't tell their these high class creators that they have to edit their projects to a strict degree. After watching the first couple episodes, not just the first one, like I said, I'm going to focus everything on the first one. But after watching the first couple, I think this really needs a trim. Most of these episodes feel like they could be closer to 40 minutes and less. Excuse me, and less 60 minutes. Um, so yeah, with saying that, looks like $1 million. They're clearly putting that Netflix budget back into it. I don't know if it looks as good as Haunting as Hill House, to be honest. It actually feels like they put the money into it, but not quite as much as they did for Hill House. Maybe bumped it down just a little bit. Same actors and actresses: Victoria Pedri as Danny, Oliver Jackson as Cohen. These are the same characters. Amelia Eve as Jamie. That's one of the twins. The two twins are Benjamin Evan Ainsworth as Miles and uh, Amelie Bay Smith as Flora. I like the twins. Um, right off the bat, they're kind of cute, charismatic. I can totally see why they were chosen for this for these roles. So far, I don't know if the stories really pushed them in a way that has made me endeared to them. Um, at least off this first episode, a lot of setup. Tiana Miller. I don't think I know her. Is I think she actually might be the housekeeper. And Raul Coley, is that correct? I know this is like he's a really big deal, and oh, he's a British actor. I thought he was Indian, or an Indian British actor, if that's a thing. Dr. Ravi Shabarati in the television series I Zombie. So, yeah, they have a pretty big extensive cast when it comes to bringing back the majority of the people. Like we have Henry Thomas as Henry Wingrave, um, and Oliver Jackson Cohen. Like these are the all of the family members of the Haunting of Hill House, and they're all playing these different characters with different, like these English accents. Some of the accents, a little something like that, and not great in all the situations. We have Carla Gugino who's opening up this episode, and I will say, she's my crush. She can do no wrong. I haven't seen Gerald's Game actually, which I'm excited to see, because Mike Flanagan kind of got put on the Netflix map because of that. Because of that, I believe. Besides Hush, um, but yeah, we have a list of individuals that are reoccurring that I won't bore y'all to death with. Y'all will see them when they come on screen. All right, so we're going to talk about the first episode of the Haunting of Bly Manor. I know it's Bly Manor, but Blythe. Um, so this first episode, um, titled "The Great Good Place." My goodness, they said it's about perfectly splendid about 20 billion times on Flora's part. It was like, okay, so I wonder where that came from. So, um, in Northern California, 2007, a woman attends a rehearsal dinner for a wedding. There she tells a story of an au pair, which is like a nanny that goes to, or a helper that goes to live with a host family, um, from like a foreign country, which dates back to 1987 in London. Danny Clayton is hired by Henry Wingrave to look after his niece and nephew in their manor, Bly, Essex, I think. When Danny arrives at the manor with the cook, Owen, she meets the children, Flora and Miles, and the housekeeper, Hannah Gross. Flora warns Danny not to leave her room at night, but of course Danny ignores this. She finds many talismans spread through the manor, one being of the previous au pair, Rebecca Jezel, who allegedly killed herself. Hannah describes the talisman as a protection for Flora. When Danny stumbles on Rebecca's talisman one night, she is locked in Flora's cupboard by Miles and panics. Seeing a specter with glowing eyes she has seen repeatedly. Oh, sorry. She's seeing a specter with glowing eyes she has seen repeatedly. Danny is let out a few hours later with Rebecca's talisman under Flora's dresser as usual. She notices muddy footsteps entering the manor, and when she follows them outside, she sees Miles and Flora staring at her from their bedroom windows. So, the great good place, golly Jove, by God, he's God. So, yes, it's a very British show. British. What do they not? They don't pronounce the T's or something like that. I don't know. I have a terrible accent. I have barely an okay American accent, so let alone a British accent. I was like, oh, good golly gee, ho, pinky up and a golly good go to you, sir. So, anyways, um, yeah, this first episode is what I'd call a slow burn first episode. It wasn't immediately like, God dang, I gotta see this thing. Most of this was having this very interesting opening when it came down to the slow like looking at all of these like uh, weird ass portraits that are blurred out and stuff like that. And it's definitely it's leaning way more into the gothic romance part of this series than I would say horror, because honestly, I don't think I was scared most of the first episode. I mean, it's a little bit pins and needles, like I don't know what's gonna happen, but like ultimately, it wasn't like this is that scary in a way that this is gonna really change my mind on many things, uh, in a way that's like. I gotta left to me. I'm scared. It wasn't like that. I wanted it to be, like I wasn't getting the bahs and the boos and the bees. I was getting the or the guy hiding in the corner or something like that. To me, what it felt like, even though we had really amazing, I wouldn't even say really amazing cinematography. I think it's just, it's really good cinematography. It's not blowing my mind. Cinematographer, I think, was on here somewhere. James Knest or Nest, I don't know, Maxime Andre. Um, I just felt like all of the scares that I felt like we were getting, the majority were pretty low budget, to be honest. Like, if they wanted to really curve the budget from that first season, I kind of feel like they did when it came down to the scares, at least in this first episode. I wasn't really that scared. I mean, and to be honest, I've seen down a few episodes, and without going into spoilers, I don't think I was scared for at least the first 5 episodes. And so, and me being a guy that mostly just likes the type of psychological horror, I like The Vitch, I like The Lighthouse, if you consider that horror. um I Those are both Robert Eggers, but he's good, yeah, good horror guy. I like the more recent It, not the It 2, but the remake It that came out within the last 10 years. Whoops. But anyways, ultimately, the Haunting of Blythe Manor is just, this first episode is not exactly a hook. There's something that happens in the beginning of the second episode that I can't really go into depth yet, because I don't really want to talk about it. This is more or less the first episode, and this is not based off seeing the entire series. Now, I've only seen the first couple, and I'm just kind of doing this one. But with saying that, the first couple episodes, not that scary. Pacing, it's chunky. These episodes are chunky, and now each one of these episodes kind of focus on a segment or segments of specific characters, and it's sort of a character study from each episode. It's like, all right, we're going to follow the nanny in this episode. All right, we're going to follow the housekeeper. All right, we're going to follow the chef. It's like, all right, we're going to find out about all these things that really are making these people tick. Why are they praying? Why do they like soup? Why do they care about their mother? It's just like, okay, we're finding out the backstories of these people. Very interesting. To me, I felt like it was a tad bit predictable in a way. And it's just like, let's see a little bit more originality with what's going on. Let's bump up some of the scares. Generally, what I find when I'm watching a lot of horror stuff is, the problem is, it's like, oh yeah, the thing that's scaring us has actually had a problem, and he just wants to be returned back to the so and so. And it's like, that's what seems to happen a lot. I don't want that to be this, and I kind of want to gear in more about what's making these people tick, because I guess seeing things that are haunting now in 2020 is such a different take when it comes to like what's actually scary as an adult and what's scary as in real life. Like there's things out there that are much scarier than what's happening in the haunting of Bly Manor. Blythe. So I guess that's what it comes down to. I feel like our sentiment for what's scary in the world now has just unequivocally changed so much since this was produced and directed. And given it doesn't have Mike Flanagan on every episode, I'm pretty sure I can feel it. Mostly from the direction, mostly I feel like Mike Flanagan gave them a couple of notes there, like, all right, we need some slow crossfades here. Make sure you don't cut it till here. We're going to stick with this character here. It feels like the direction of Mike Flanagan. It doesn't feel like an overall Mike Flanagan production, though, like the first season did. And that, like I said, that's my biggest gripe with this first episode. I generally like the music. It's the Newton Brothers. I don't know if I know what they're from. If they've done anything that I'm aware of. I guess they worked on Oculus as well with him. Um. Oh no, they have a lot of shit. They worked with Mike Flanagan on Oculus though. They didn't work with him on pretty much anything else though. I can tell. Huh. Well. Oh, there is. Oh, he did work. Oh, what am I talking about? These guys have been Mike Flanagan's guys. What am I talking about? Hush, Ouija, Origin of Evil. So they've been using a lot of the same people. Gerald's Game. Okay, yeah. So it's the same. Bye, man. Oh Lord. So yeah, they do a lot of other stuff. They did Doctor Sleep. Okay. So yeah, I guess these guys are. They did Haunting a Hill House. That's very interesting. All right. So that's why I like going kind of behind the scenes. It's a lot of the same production crew and creative crew, but it's just not on the same par so far, at least for the first few episodes for me, as The Haunting of Hill House. Haunting of Hill House just had this level of emotion, and this the characters in there felt a little bit more rich, and I cared about the characters. Like I feel like I don't really care about these characters as much yet, at least in this first episode, and the following episodes kind of ingratiate you into the Wingraves, and you kind of understand who they are a little bit better. But I really didn't feel like I still, even after a few episodes, not really feeling it yet. So I'm going to push through. I'm already like 6 episodes in, so I might as well finish it. Was there like 3 more episodes? So yeah, I'll probably just do a roundup after that, and then we'll call it a day. All right. Well, that's the haunting of Blythe Manor. The favorite donations, go to paypal.me/ at the Lucky Deposit. I don't even what the hell I just said. Have any donations go to uh what is it? paypal.me/ the Lucky Dog Podcast for all donations. And then we have the entire library is on SoundCloud. Get the entire library of the Lucky Dog Podcast on SoundCloud before it goes private. I'm thinking about doing what am I thinking about doing? I'm thinking about doing Patreon, and we're gonna have all of the exclusive Lucky Dog podcast going straight to Patreon. And so we'll have the free feed on SoundCloud and other podcast providers, but then we'll have the Patreon as well. So still thinking about it. Let me know what y'all think, if I should do a Patreon or not. So yeah, comments, questions, concerns, email, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram. You know what to do. Lucky Dog Podcast. Yeah. 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 Blythe. Take it easy. Blythe. All right, let me see.